Jake Mitchell wiped the grease from his hands with an old rag and looked at the broken engine in front of him. The blue pickup truck had been giving him trouble all morning. Its owner, Mrs. Peterson, needed it fixed by tomorrow, but Jake's mind kept wandering to places far away from this small garage in Pine Valley. 3 years ago, he had been Lieutenant Jake Mitchell of the Earth, Defense Corps. He had traveled to distant planets and worked with technology that most people could only dream about. Now he was just Jake, who fixed cars and lived above his uncle's garage. The change felt strange every single day. "Jake, you okay in there?" his Uncle Dan called from the office. "You've been staring at that engine for 10 minutes. "Yeah, I'm fine," Jake replied, though he wasn't really fine at all. He hadn't been fine since he came back home 2 months ago. The nightmares still came every night. Dreams about blue skies turning red, about screaming alarms, about a massive reactor that could have killed millions of people. He shook his head and focused on the truck. The fuel pump was broken. Nothing more complicated than that. He could fix it in an hour if he stopped thinking about the past. Jake reached for his tools and got to work. The bell above the garage door rang as someone walked in. Jake looked up to see Tommy Barnes, his old high school friend. Tommy worked at the local bank now and always wore clean shirts and ties. He looked nothing like the kid who used to skip school to go fishing. "Hey, Jake," Tommy said, looking around the messy garage. "How's the mechanic life treating you?" "Can't complain," Jake said, though that wasn't true either. "What brings you here? Your car running okay?" "Car's fine. I just wanted to check on you. You seem different since you came back. Quiet, like you're carrying something heavy." Jake put down his wrench and looked at his old friend. Tommy was right, of course. Jake was carrying something heavy. The weight of what he had done on Zephyria Prime, the weight of keeping secrets, the weight of being the only person in Pine Valley who knew that life existed beyond Earth. "I'm just getting used to being home," Jake said. 3 years is a long time. "Where exactly did you go?" "The Corps never told your family much. Just that you were on a classified mission." Jake had heard this question many times. His parents, his uncle, his friends, even the mailman had asked. The official story was that he had been working on a secret project for Earth's defense. That much was true, but it was only a tiny part of the real story. "Can't talk about it," Jake said. "You know how it is with classified stuff." Tommy nodded, but Jake could see he wasn't satisfied with the answer. Nobody was. A young man disappears for 3 years and comes back changed. People wanted to know why. After Tommy left, Jake went back to work on the truck. He replaced the fuel pump and tested the engine. It started on the first try, purring like a happy cat. At least he could still fix things. That was something. The afternoon sun was getting low when Jake finally closed the garage. He walked up the narrow stairs to his apartment above the shop. It was a small place with 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a living room that barely fit. A couch and a TV. After living in the advanced facilities of the Earth Defense Corps, it felt like going back in time. Jake made himself a simple dinner and sat down to watch the news. The reporter was talking about the usual things: politics, weather, sports. Nothing about alien worlds or reactor meltdowns or the horrible things that happened when civilizations made mistakes with dangerous technology. As he ate, Jake's mind drifted back to that day on Zephyria Prime. He had been part of a small team, sent to help the Zephyrians upgrade their power systems. The aliens were peaceful and intelligent, but they had made their reactors too powerful and too unstable. When the main reactor started to fail, Jake had been the only one who understood both human and Zephyrian technology well enough to fix it. The evacuation alarms had been screaming. The Zephyrian engineers had been running around in panic. Their blue skin had turned almost white with fear. Jake had worked for 18 hours straight, crawling through radioactive tunnels, rewiring systems that were never meant to be rewired. In the end, he had saved them. All of them. Millions of Zephyrians who would have died if that reactor had exploded. But the cost had been high. Jake had been exposed to so much radiation that the doctors weren't sure he would survive. He had spent 6 months in the hospital, then another year recovering. The Zephyrians had been grateful, more grateful than Jake had ever seen any people be. They had ceremonies and speeches and gave him medals made of metals that didn't exist on Earth. Their leaders had called him a hero, a savior, a gift from the stars. Jake had just wanted to go home. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Jake looked at the clock. It was past 9 in the evening. Who would visit this late? He opened the door to find his neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, holding a plate of cookies. She was a sweet old lady who lived alone and seemed to think Jake needed looking after. "I made too many cookies," she said, though they both knew she had made them specifically for him. "Thought you might like some." "Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. That's very kind. Are you eating enough, dear? You look thin." Jake smiled. Mrs. Wilson asked him this every time she saw him. "I'm eating fine. Don't worry about me. A young man like you should have a girlfriend to cook for him. There are some nice girls in town, you know." Jake accepted the cookies and thanked her again. After she left, he sat on his couch and ate one of the cookies. It was good, sweet, and warm. Simple things like this had meant nothing to him before. His mission, now they seemed precious. He went to bed early, but sleep didn't come easily. It never did. When he finally drifted off, the dreams came again. Blue skies, red warnings, screaming alarms. But this time there was something new in the dream. A bright light in the sky, getting bigger and bigger. Jake woke up with a start. His heart was pounding, and he was covered in sweat. The clock showed 3 in the morning. He got up and went to the window to get some fresh air. The night was clear and quiet. Pine Valley was small enough that he could see stars, something that had been impossible in the big cities where he had lived during his course training. He was about to go back to bed when he saw something that made his blood run cold. There was a light in the sky, a bright light that definitely wasn't a star or a plane. It was moving slowly, getting bigger, just like in his dream. Jake rubbed his eyes and looked again. The light was still there, and it was definitely getting closer. His hands started shaking. After 3 years of keeping secrets, after 2 months of trying to forget, the universe had found him. He watched the light for another minute, then grabbed his phone and called the only person he could trust with something like this. Colonel Martinez had been his commanding officer during the Zephyr Prime mission. If anyone would believe him, it would be Martinez. The phone rang 4 times before a sleepy voice answered. "Martinez here." "Colonel, it's Jake Mitchell. I think we have a problem." "Jake? What time is it? What's wrong?" Jake looked out the window. Again, the light was much bigger now, and he could make out the shape of a ship he recognized. "Sir, I think the Zephyrians have found me." High Admiral Thokren stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Conquest, watching his 12 battlecruisers descended toward Earth. The largest fleet in Zephyrian history had been assembled to end the human problem once and for all. Behind him, the ship's strategic command center buzzed with activity as officers coordinated the most massive military operation the Empire had ever launched. "Admiral," reported Fleet Captain Mordek, "all ships are in position. We have 60,000 soldiers ready for planetary assault. The humans cannot possibly resist a force this size." Admiral Thokren nodded, but his confidence was not as strong as it had been weeks ago. Dr. Krevash's reports had disturbed him deeply. Still, the High Command had ordered the complete conquest of Earth, and he would follow those orders. "Begin the bombardment," he commanded. "Target their major cities and military installations. We will break their will before we land a single soldier." But something was wrong. As the Zephyrian ships moved into attack formation, human vessels appeared from behind Earth's moon. They were not the primitive spacecraft that intelligence had predicted. They were sleek, advanced ships that looked like no human technology the aliens had ever seen. "Admiral," the censor officer reported, his voice confused, I am reading impossible energy signatures from those human ships. They appear to be using modified versions of our own weapon systems. Admiral Peter Hayes commanded the human fleet. From the bridge of the Earth Defense Ship Liberty. The ship had been built in just 3 weeks using a combination of human engineering and captured Zephyrian technology. It was not as large or powerful as the alien ships, but it had advantages that the aliens did not understand. All ships, this is Admiral Hayes, Peter announced over the fleet communication system. Remember, we are not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We are trying to capture as many ships as possible. Our scientists need more alien technology. To study, General Sandra Lewis, coordinating the operation from Earth's surface, added her voice to the communication. All units execute Operation Reverse Engineering. Show them what happens when humans get their hands on alien technology. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The Zephyrian fleet had superior numbers and firepower. But the human ships fought with tactics that seemed to defy the laws of physics and military strategy. Human ships deliberately allowed themselves to be damaged, then used the damage as cover to get close to alien vessels. They performed maneuvers that should have destroyed them, using Earth's gravity well and magnetic field in ways that alien tactical computers could not predict. Most disturbing of all, the human ships worked together with a coordination that seemed impossible. They moved like a single organism, each ship anticipating what the others would do without any visible communication. Admiral, reported Fleet Captain Mordak, the human ships are using some kind of new technology. They are sharing targeting data instantaneously across their entire fleet. When one ship locks onto us, they all lock on simultaneously. What the aliens did not understand was that humans had done something no other species had ever attempted. They had connected their military computers into a single network that allowed every ship to think as part of a larger mind while still maintaining individual creativity and Initiative. Captain Sarah Kim commanded the human ship Defiance, one of the smaller vessels in the fleet. Her ship was outnumbered 3-1, but she was not worried. She had something the aliens lacked, the ability to think creatively under pressure. Helm, take us into the asteroid field, Sarah ordered. Let's see if these aliens know how to fight in rough terrain. Her ship dove toward a cluster of small asteroids orbiting near Earth. The pursuing Zephyrian ships followed, confident that their superior technology would give them an advantage in the difficult environment. But Sarah had spent her childhood exploring caves and climbing mountains. She understood three-dimensional thinking in a way that the aliens, who had evolved on relatively flat worlds, did not. She used the asteroids not as obstacles to avoid, but as tools to manipulate. Fire the mining charges, Sarah ordered. Her ship had been equipped with industrial mining explosives, weapons that were not designed for combat, but worked perfectly for Sarah's plan. The explosives shattered several large asteroids, creating a cloud of debris that moved in predictable patterns. The alien ships, built for open space combat, found themselves trapped in a maze of spinning rocks and metal fragments. Their larger size and rigid formations became disadvantages instead of strengths. Sarah's ship, smaller and more maneuverable, darted through the debris field like a fish swimming through coral. She attacked the alien ships from impossible angles, using the asteroid fragments as shields and weapons. Target their engine systems, Sarah ordered. We want to capture that ship intact. Meanwhile, Admiral Thokran watched in growing horror as his massive fleet was being outmaneuvered by a force 1/10 its size. The humans were not fighting to destroy the Zephyrian ships. They were fighting to capture them. How is this possible? He demanded. We have superior numbers, superior weapons, superior armor. How are they winning? Dr. Krevash, monitoring the battle from the command ship's laboratory, had been analyzing human combat data in real time. Her findings were more disturbing than anything she had discovered before. Admiral, she reported, the humans are not fighting a normal space battle. They are conducting a massive research experiment while simultaneously defending their planet. What do you mean? Every shot they fire, every maneuver they make, every tactic they employ is designed to test our capabilities and weaknesses. Look at this data stream. She displayed intercepted human communications. They are sharing information about our ship designs, our weapons' effectiveness, our tactical responses across their entire fleet in real time. Admiral Thokran studied the data. They are learning about us during the battle? More than that. They are reverse engineering our technology while we fight them. Watch this recording. The display showed a human ship that had been hit by Zephyrian weapons. Instead of retreating to repair the damage, the ship had somehow incorporated the alien weapon energy into its own systems. Within minutes, it was firing modified versions of Zephyrian weapons back at their original makers. This is impossible, Admiral Thokran said. No species can adapt technology that quickly. Humans can, Dr. Krevash replied. Admiral, I have been studying their scientific methods. They do not just copy technology. They understand it, improve it, and combine it with their own innovations. They are not just using our weapons against us. They are making better versions of our weapons. The battle continued for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the humans had achieved something that should have been impossible. They had defeated a fleet 12 times their size while suffering minimal losses. But more importantly, they had captured 8 intact Zephyrian ships and rescued hundreds of alien prisoners. The humans did not kill their captives or torture them for information. Instead, they treated them according to those strange rules of war that Private Danny Martinez had mentioned. General Sandra Lewis stood in the command center on Earth, watching as the captured alien ships were brought into orbit. Around her, human scientists and engineers were already making plans to study every piece of alien technology they could find. How long until we can build ships like theirs? She asked the chief engineer. Based on our analysis of the captured vessels, maybe 6 months, the engineer replied. But General, I think we can build better ships. Their technology is advanced, but it follows very rigid patterns. We can improve on their designs by adding human creativity and adaptability. Sandra nodded. This was exactly what she had hoped to hear. The humans were not just defending Earth anymore. They were preparing for something much larger. Meanwhile, Admiral Thokran tried to contact the Zephyrian High Command to report his defeat. But something even more disturbing was happening across the Empire. Reports were flooding in from dozens of star systems about strange human ships appearing near Zephyrian colonies. How is this possible? Admiral Thokran demanded. How do humans reach our other worlds? They did not have faster-than-light travel before we arrived. Dr. Krevash checked her sensor readings. Admiral, I believe they captured our navigation computers during previous battles. They have learned our hyperspace routes and are using our own technology to travel to our colonies. What are they doing there? Unknown, but initial reports suggest they are making contact with our subject species, the races we conquered and enslaved. Admiral Thokran felt something he had never experienced before. Genuine fear. Doctor, what kind of species have we encountered? Dr. Krevash stared at the data flowing across her screens. Human ships were appearing throughout Zephyrian space, not as conquerors but as liberators. They were making contact with every enslaved species, sharing technology and tactics, teaching them how to fight for their freedom. Admiral, she said quietly, I believe we have encountered the one thing our empire was never designed to face. We have found a species that does not fight to conquer or to survive. They fight to ensure that no one else has to live in slavery. What does that mean for us? Dr. Krevash had not slept in 3 days. She sat in her laboratory aboard the Zephyrian command ship, surrounded by holographic displays showing human evolutionary data. What she was discovering changed everything she thought she knew about warfare, about survival, and about intelligence itself. Admiral Thokran, she called over the ship's communication system. You need to see this immediately. I have found something that explains everything. The Admiral arrived in her lab looking tired and frustrated. The battle for Denver had ended badly for the Zephyrians. They had retreated after losing nearly half their ground forces, something that had never happened in the Empire's history. "Doctor, I hope you have good news," Admiral Thokran said. "The High Command is demanding answers. How did a primitive species defeat our best soldiers?" Dr. Krevash activated her main display, showing the evolutionary tree of humanity. "Admiral, we made a fundamental error. We assumed that humans were either predators or prey, like every other species we have encountered. But look at this data." The hologram showed Earth's history, focusing on early human ancestors. Humans evolved as both predator and prey simultaneously. For millions of years, they hunted other animals while being hunted by larger predators. This created something that has never existed before in the galaxy. "What do you mean?" the Admiral asked. "They developed the ability to switch between predator and prey mentality instantly, depending on the situation. When they are strong, they hunt. When they are weak, they become prey that thinks like a predator. It is the most effective survival strategy ever evolved." Admiral Thokron studied the display. "But that makes no sense. Predators and prey think completely differently. Predators are aggressive and direct. Prey animals are cautious and defensive." "Exactly," Dr. Krevash said excitedly. "But humans can be both. Watch this combat footage from Denver." She showed recordings of human soldiers fighting the Zephyrian forces. "See here? When they have an advantage, they attack aggressively like predators. But the moment they are outgunned, they disappear like prey animals. Then they reappear in a different location and attack again." The Admiral watched as human squads seemed to vanish into the city, only to strike from completely unexpected directions. "They are not retreating," he realized. "They are repositioning. Yes, but it is more than that. They are using prey instincts to survive, while using predator instincts to attack. It should be impossible, but they do it naturally. Every human soldier can think like both hunter and hunted at the same time." Dr. Krevash switched to a different display showing human brain scans. "Look at these neural pathways. They have developed brain structures that allow them to process threat assessment and opportunity recognition simultaneously. When a normal predator sees prey, it attacks. When normal prey sees a predator, it flees. But humans see both threat and opportunity in every situation." Admiral Thokran was beginning to understand. "So when we attacked them, they saw us as both a threat to avoid and a target to hunt." "Precisely. And there is more. Watch this recording from the interrogation of the human prisoner." She played a recording of Private Danny Martinez from several days earlier. Dr. Krevash had asked him about human military history, and Danny had told her about famous battles where smaller human forces had defeated larger ones. "He mentioned something called guerrilla warfare," Dr. Krevash explained. "Humans have been developing these tactics for thousands of years. They have fought this way against other humans, against nature, against every challenge they have ever faced." The recording showed Danny explaining how human armies had hidden in forests and mountains, attacking larger forces and then disappearing. He talked about how civilians had fought against occupying armies, using knowledge of their homeland to defeat superior forces. "Admiral," Dr. Krevash said quietly, "we have never conquered a species like this because no species like this has ever existed. Every other race we have defeated was either predator or prey. Predators fight until they are defeated. Then they surrender. Prey animals flee until they are caught. Then they submit. But humans do neither. What do? They adapt. They learn. They become whatever they need to be to survive. And then they become whatever they need to be to win." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Commander Vexstar, who was leading a reconnaissance mission on Earth's surface. "Admiral, we have a situation," Vexstar reported. The humans are not behaving as expected. We thought they would need time to recover from the Denver battle. Instead, they are launching coordinated attacks on our positions. Dr. Krevash activated. The display showing Vexstar's location. The commander was leading a patrol near the ruins of the Colorado outpost, the site of the first battle. But instead of finding a quiet area, he had walked into what appeared to be a carefully planned ambush. "How many humans are attacking you?" Admiral Thokran asked. "That is the problem, sir. We count approximately 50 humans, but they are fighting like they are 500. They have taken positions we did not know existed. They are using weapons we have never seen before, and they appear to be commanded by the human officer from Denver." Dr. Krevash checked her records, Captain Rick Palmer, but our intelligence said he was wounded in the Denver battle. "He was wounded," Vexstar confirmed. "But he is here, and he is very much alive. Sir, I think they are testing us. This is not a desperate attack. This is a planned experiment." The doctor realized what was happening. "Admiral, they are studying us in real time. Every engagement teaches them more about our capabilities and weaknesses. They are not just fighting us. They are learning how to defeat us." On the surface, Captain, Rick Palmer was indeed conducting an experiment. His arm was still in a sling from the Denver battle, but his mind was completely focused. He had brought 50 of his best soldiers to test a new theory about alien combat behavior. "Rodriguez report," Rick said into his radio. "Sergeant Carlos." Rodriguez was positioned on a ridge overlooking the alien patrol. "Sir, they are moving exactly as predicted. When we attack from the east, they form a defensive circle facing that direction. When we attack from the west, they turn to face west. They are reactive, not proactive." "Confirmed?" came another voice. Lieutenant Emma Stone was leading a team to the south. "They respond to immediate threats, but do not anticipate future threats. They think tactically, not strategically." Rick smiled grimly. This was exactly what he had hoped to discover. The aliens were individually superior to humans, but they were not adapted for the kind of warfare humans had been practicing for millennia. "All teams, execute pattern Delta," Rick ordered. "Let's see how they handle multiple simultaneous threats." From changing directions, the human attack began with precision timing. Teams struck from 4 different directions in rapid succession, then immediately moved to new positions. The aliens found themselves constantly turning to face new threats, never able to establish a stable defensive position. But Rick was testing more than just tactics. He was testing something Dr. Krevash had not yet discovered. He was testing whether the aliens could learn and adapt during combat the way humans could. The answer was disturbing. The aliens responded to each attack professionally and effectively, but they did not change their overall strategy. They continued to use the same formations, the same responses, the same thinking patterns, even when those patterns were clearly not working. "They are like computers," Rick said to himself, watching the aliens through his binoculars. Very advanced computers, but still computers. They process information quickly, but they do not truly understand it. After 2 hours of combat, Rick ordered his teams to withdraw. They had learned what they needed to know, and more importantly, they had tested something that would change everything. "All teams, fall back to Rally Point Charlie," Rick ordered. Mission accomplished. As the humans disappeared into the landscape, Commander Vexstar tried to understand what had just happened. His force had not been defeated, but it had been thoroughly analyzed and probed. The humans had tested his soldiers like a scientist tests a laboratory specimen. "Admiral," Vexstar reported, "the humans have withdrawn." "But sir, this was not a normal battle." "They were not trying to destroy us. They were trying to understand us." Dr. Krevash felt a chill of realization. "Admiral, we need to evacuate Earth. Immediately." "What? Why?" "Because we are not the hunters anymore," she said, staring at the combat footage. "Somehow, in the course of this conflict, we have become the prey. and the humans have become the predators. Admiral Thokrin looked at the displays showing human military activity across the planet. Small groups of humans were moving into positions around every Zephyrian installation. They were not massing for a large attack. They were positioning themselves for something much more sophisticated. Doctor, what are they planning? Dr. Krevash analyzed the data streams flowing in from across the planet. Human communication networks were buzzing with activity, but it was all encrypted using methods the Zephyrians had never seen before. I believe they are preparing to hunt us, Admiral. Not just defeat us, but study us, learn from us, and then use that knowledge against the rest of our empire. We are not fighting for control of this planet anymore. We are fighting for the survival of our species. 2 weeks after the Colorado outpost fell, the Zephyrian High Command decided to end the human resistance with overwhelming force. They sent 3 battle cruisers and 5,000 elite soldiers to attack Denver, the largest human city in the Koiwa region. High Admiral Thokron himself led the assault, confident that the sight of massive alien ships would break human morale. Commander Vexstar stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching the city spread out below them. Dr. Krevash had briefed the command staff about her findings, but most of the officers dismissed her warnings as overcautious. They had never lost a planetary conquest, and they did not intend to start now. Look at them, Admiral Thokrin said, pointing at the humans moving through the streets below. They are not fleeing. They are not hiding. Do they not understand? What is about to happen? Through the ship's cameras, they could see humans evacuating children and elderly people from the city center. But instead of running away completely, many humans were moving toward defensive positions. Civilians were carrying supplies to soldiers, and some were even taking up weapons themselves. Sir, reported Captain Zareth, we are detecting organized military units throughout the city. They appear to be preparing for urban combat. Admiral Thokrin laughed. 5,000 of our warriors against perhaps a few hundred of theirs. In a city with no natural defenses? This will be over before sunset. But Captain Rick Palmer, the human commander defending Denver, had different plans. He had studied every piece of information gathered from the Colorado outposts. He knew exactly what the aliens could do, and more importantly, what they could not do. Remember, Rick told his officers over the radio, they are stronger and better armed than us. But they are used to open warfare against primitives. They have never fought in a city before. They have never faced an entire population working together. Lieutenant Amy Foster nodded from her position 3 blocks away. She commanded a mixed unit of soldiers and armed civilians, including a retired police officer named Bob Turner and a school teacher named Mary Collins, who had learned to use a rifle just days before. All units, this is Palmer, Rick's voice crackled over the radio. Execute Operation Hornet's Nest. Make them pay for every block, every building, every room. Remember, we are not trying to win quickly. We are trying to win completely. The Zephyrian assault began at noon. Their landing craft descended into the city center, expecting to secure key buildings and force a quick surrender. Instead, they found themselves in a nightmare of urban warfare unlike anything they had experienced. The first wave of alien soldiers, led by Commander Vexstar, landed in the main square. They expected to find cowering civilians or fleeing soldiers. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. It was too quiet, too perfect. Something is wrong, Vexstar said into his communicator. This feels like a trap. He was right. The humans had turned the entire city into a weapon. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a killing field, and every civilian was a potential combatant. The attack came from everywhere at once. Rifle fire erupted from windows, rooftops, and doorways. Improvised explosives detonated under alien feet. Humans appeared from sewers, storm drains, and hidden passages that the aliens never knew existed. But the most disturbing thing was how the humans fought. They did not fight like individual soldiers or even like military units. They fought like a single organism with thousands of parts, each one supporting the others. When a group of aliens cornered a human squad in a building, other humans would attack from behind, forcing the aliens to split their attention. When aliens tried to advance down a street, humans would collapse buildings to block their path while other humans attacked from new directions. Lieutenant Amy Foster watched from her position as a group of alien soldiers tried to clear an apartment building. The aliens were methodical and professional, checking each room carefully. But the humans inside were not fighting by normal rules. "Mrs. Henderson," Amy whispered into her radio, "are you in position?" "Yes, dear," came the reply from a 70-year-old woman who had volunteered to help. "I can see them coming up the stairs." Mrs. Henderson was not a soldier. She was a grandmother who had lived in Denver her entire life, but she had volunteered for the most dangerous job in the building. She was the bait. The aliens found her in her apartment, apparently hiding in fear. They approached carefully, weapons ready. Mrs. Henderson played her part perfectly, crying and begging for mercy in English that they could not understand. While the aliens were focused on her, Amy and her team moved into position. They had been waiting in the walls themselves, using maintenance passages and ventilation systems to stay hidden. The aliens had superior technology and armor, but they did not know the building like the humans did. "Now," Amy whispered. The attack came from 6 directions at once. Amy and her soldiers emerged from hidden passages, shooting at the aliens from point-blank range. The aliens were caught completely off guard, unable to bring their superior firepower to bear in the confined space. 3 aliens died in the first 10 seconds. The others tried to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by armed civilians who had been waiting in the stairwells. This scene was repeated throughout the city. Humans used their knowledge of the urban environment to turn every advantage the aliens had into a disadvantage. The alien size made them easy targets in narrow hallways. Their advanced weapons were less effective in close quarters. Their armor was designed for open combat, not for fighting in buildings. Commander Vextar found himself trapped in a maze of city streets, fighting an enemy he could not see or predict. Every time his soldiers advanced, they were attacked from unexpected directions. Every time they tried to establish a secure position, the humans would find a way to flank them. "Admiral," Vextar reported, "we are taking heavy casualties. The humans are fighting differently than before. They are not just soldiers now. The entire population is involved." "Impossible," Admiral Thokran replied. "Civilians cannot fight trained soldiers." "These are not normal civilians," Vextar said, as bullets shattered the wall next to his head. "They are coordinated. They communicate. They work together like they have been planning this for years." What Vextar did not understand was that humans had been planning this for years. Not this specific battle, but the ideas behind it. Human military doctrine had always included the concept of total war, where every citizen could contribute to the defense of their homeland. The school teacher, Mary Collins, was coordinating ammunition distribution using knowledge she had gained from organizing school supply drives. The retired police officer, Bob Turner, was directing traffic flow using skills he had learned from managing crowds at sporting events. The grandmother, Mrs. Henderson, was gathering intelligence using social skills she had developed from decades of neighborhood watch meetings. Every human had skills that could be applied to warfare, and they were all working together under a single command structure. The aliens had never seen anything like it. As the day wore on, the Zephyrian assault began to falter. They had expected to lose perhaps a dozen soldiers while killing hundreds of humans. Instead, they were losing 3 soldiers for every human they killed, and the humans seemed to be getting stronger instead of weaker. Dr. Krevash monitored the battle from orbit, analyzing the human tactics. "Admiral," she reported, "I am seeing something extraordinary. The humans are not just fighting us, they are learning from us. Every engagement is teaching them more about our capabilities." "What do you mean?" Admiral Thokran asked. "Watch this." Footage, Dr. Krevash said, displaying recordings from the battle. In the first hour, human weapons were ineffective against our armor. But look at what they are doing now. The recording showed humans using captured alien weapons, but also modifying their own weapons with alien technology. They were combining human tactics with alien equipment, creating hybrid strategies that neither side had used before. They are adapting faster than we are, Dr. Krevash continued. Every alien weapon they capture is reverse engineered within hours. Every tactical mistake we make is exploited immediately. They are not just fighting us, Admiral. They are studying us. Captain Rick Palmer coordinated the human defense from a mobile command post that moved constantly through the city. He had learned from the Colorado outpost that the aliens could track radio transmissions, so he used runners and pre-planned signals to communicate with his units. All units, Phase 3, he announced. Begin the squeeze. The human strategy was becoming clear. They were not trying to destroy the alien force quickly. They were trying to trap it, surround it, and slowly wear it down. They were using the city itself as a weapon, channeling the aliens into killing zones and ambush points. By evening, the Zephyrian force was scattered, demoralized, and running low on ammunition. They had never faced an enemy that could adapt so quickly or coordinate so effectively. Worst of all, they were beginning to realize that the humans were not just defending a city. They were defending a way of life. Commander, one of Vextar's soldiers reported, "We have intercepted human communications. They are saying something about their families, their homes, their freedom. They are not fighting for territory or resources. They are fighting for ideas." 3 days after the attack on the Colorado outpost, Commander Vextar stood in the medical bay of his ship, watching the alien scientists work on the captured humans. The ship's chief medical officer, Dr. Krevash, was unlike most Zephyrians. Where others were built for war, she was built for understanding. Dr. Krevash had 6 arms instead of the usual 4, and her head was larger to hold her enhanced brain. She had studied 17 different species during the Empire's expansion, learning their weaknesses and strengths. But the humans puzzled her in ways she had never experienced before. "The scans make no sense," she said to Vextar, pointing at the holographic display showing a human body. "Look at their physical structure. They have no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armor plating. Their bones are hollow and weak compared to ours. Their muscles are small and underdeveloped." Vextar nodded, remembering how easily his warriors should have crushed the human soldiers. "Then why did they fight so hard? Why did 4 of my best soldiers die taking that outpost?" Dr. Krevash switched the display to show the human brain. "This is where it gets interesting. Their brains are large, but not larger than ours. However, the structure is completely different. Look at these sections here." She pointed to highlighted areas. "These regions are much more developed than in any other species we have encountered. What do those regions control?" Vextar asked. "Problem solving, pattern recognition, and something called empathy. But most importantly, they have an unusually large section devoted to what we might call stubbornness, the refusal to accept defeat, even when defeat is certain." They were interrupted by a commotion from the holding cells. Private Danny Martinez was awake and causing trouble again. This was the 3rd time today he had tried to escape from his cell, even though he was wounded and restrained. "Bring him to the examination room," Dr. Krevash ordered. "I want to study him while he is conscious." 2 Zephyrian guards dragged Danny into the room and strapped him to an examination table. The young soldier's head was bandaged, and his left arm was in a sling, but his eyes were alert and angry. "Let me go," Danny said, struggling against the restraints. "I have rights under the Geneva Convention. You can't do this to prisoners of war." Dr. Krevash tilted her head, confused. "Geneva Convention? What is this thing you speak of?" "Rules of war," Danny replied. "Even in combat, there are rules about how you treat prisoners. You can't torture us or perform medical experiments." Vextar laughed. "Rules of war? Child, we are the conquerors. We make the rules. But Dr. Krevash was fascinated. Tell me about these rules. Who made them? How do they work? Danny stared at her for a moment, then began to speak. Different countries on Earth got together and agreed on rules. Rules about protecting civilians, treating prisoners humanely, not using certain weapons. Not everyone follows them, but most do. Why? Dr. Krevash asked. Why would warriors limit themselves with rules? Because war is hell, Danny said simply. But we're still human beings. We don't have to become monsters just because we're fighting. The alien doctor made notes on her tablet. This was completely outside her experience. In 17 conquests, she had never encountered a species that created rules to limit their own effectiveness in combat. You spoke of protecting civilians, she continued. What are civilians? People who aren't soldiers. Regular people. Families, children, old people. They're not part of the war, so they should be protected. But surely you use your civilians as shields? Force them to fight when you are losing? Danny's expression hardened. No, never. We protect them. That's the whole point of being a soldier. We fight so they don't have to. Dr. Krevash exchanged glances with Vexstar. This made no sense from a military perspective. Why would a species voluntarily limit their fighting force to only train soldiers when they could use their entire population? Show me your memories of training, Dr. Krevash said, placing a neural scanner on Danny's head. I want to understand how you prepare for war. The scanner displayed Danny's memories on the holographic projector. Vexstar watched scenes of human military training, expecting to see the brutal conditioning used by the Zephyrian military. Instead, he saw something completely different. Human soldiers were taught to work together, to sacrifice for each other, to never leave a comrade behind. They were taught to protect the innocent and to show mercy to defeated enemies. Most strangely, they were taught to think for themselves, to question orders that seemed wrong. This is not military training, Vexstar said, confused. This is philosophy. You are making them weak. Are we? Danny asked. Your soldiers are bigger, stronger, and better armed than us. But we killed 4 of them and wounded 3 others. If we're so weak, how did we do that? Dr. Krevash studied the memory recordings more carefully. Commander, look at this. Watch how they move together. Each human soldier knows what the others will do without being told. They anticipate each other's actions. She highlighted sections of the combat footage from the outpost. See here? This soldier draws fire while his comrade moves to a better position. Here, another one shares his ammunition with a wounded soldier. And here, they coordinate their attacks without any verbal communication. Vexstar watched the footage with growing unease. He had assumed the humans were simply lucky or desperate. But the recordings showed something different. They showed planning, coordination, and tactical thinking that matched or exceeded his own warriors. How is this possible? He asked. They had no time to prepare. They were surprised by our attack. Dr. Krevash switched to a different set of recordings from Danny's memories. These showed human soldiers in various training exercises, but also humans in civilian life. Children playing team sports, families working together, communities helping each other during disasters. I think I understand, she said slowly. Commander, these creatures do not just train for war. They train for cooperation from birth. Every aspect of their society teaches them to work together, to help each other, to never give up. She showed them images of human children playing games where they had to work as a team to succeed. She showed them human families where the adults would sacrifice their own needs to help their children. She showed them human communities where people would risk their lives to save strangers. This is not military training, Dr. Krevash explained. This is how they live. Every day, from the moment they are born, they practice the skills that make them effective soldiers. Not the physical skills, but the mental ones. Vexstar stared at the recordings. You mean they are all warriors? Even the civilians? No, Dr. Krevash said. They are something else, something we have never encountered before. They are individuals who can become a single organism when threatened. They can think as one mind while still maintaining their individual creativity. She pulled up more data from the brain scans. Look at this neural pathway. It connects the self-preservation instinct to the protection of others. In most species, including ours, these are separate and often competing drives. But in humans, they are linked. They cannot truly save themselves unless they save others. Danny had been listening to their conversation, and now he spoke up. You're starting to understand. We don't fight just to survive. We fight to protect what we love. That's why we can't surrender. If we give up, everyone we care about suffers. Dr. Krevash made more notes. This explains their behavior at the outpost. They were not fighting to win. They were fighting to delay us, to gather information, to warn others. Even their deaths served a purpose. What purpose? Vexstar asked. They were studying us, Danny said with a slight smile. Every shot we fired, every move you made, every weakness we found. All that information was transmitted back to our command. By the time you killed us, they knew exactly what you were capable of. The alien commander felt a chill run down his spine. You mean this was all planned? You knew you would die? We hoped we wouldn't, Danny replied. But we knew it was possible, and we knew that our deaths would help save others. That's worth dying for. Dr. Krevash looked at her readings again. Commander, I need to do more research. But I think we have made a serious error. These humans are not primitives. They are something far more dangerous. What do you mean? They are a species that has turned cooperation into a weapon. They have made sacrifice into a tactical advantage. They have evolved beyond individual survival into group survival. And if I am reading these scans correctly, they may be the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Vexstar looked at the wounded human soldier, still strapped to the examination table but still defiant. More dangerous than us? Much more, Dr. Krevash said quietly. Because they fight for something bigger than themselves. And that makes them impossible to defeat through normal means.